Welcome back to part 2 of our ultimate Gib River Road adventure. In this episode, we take on the second half of this wild, rugged journey where the road gets rough, the views get better, and the stories unforgettable. Sit back and enjoy this episode. Once we arrived at Mount Elizabeth Station, we organised our sights and headed straight out to Wanamara Gorge. The trek down to Wanamara Gorge is roughly 12 kilometres long, however it's low range 4-wheel drive only as there is a lot of rock hopping to do and it took us about an hour to get down to where the walking track starts. You can just see in this video all the sidewalls of the tyres have had a beating for all the rock hopping on this track. After hearing so many reviews about the burgers at Mount Barnett Roadhouse, we couldn't resist to see what all the fuss was about, before making our way into Manning Campground to spend a couple of nights. The next morning we set off early to hike Manning Gorge, which begins with a swim across the river shared with freshwater crocs before tackling the 6-kilometre return track.
My thunder thighs are rubbing between each other. Contribute my bit to this. Going for a world record.
After a short break at camp, we set off again to explore Galvin's Gorge, which was just a quick 20-minute drive from Manning Campground.
That was like our first cast. Get it in there. Sorry guys, you're not allowed to swim.
next stop was Adcock Gorge. Unfortunately, this gorge didn't flow at all last year, so we didn't swim as the water was a bit stagnant, but Shane had his fishing rod of course, and he had a fish while we were there.
Alright, day 10 on the Gib. We have just arrived at Bell Gorge. It's another gorge. There's lots of gorges on the Gib. Zayla's gone look for a little swim, but not me. I'm gonna go and have a flicky. Might have a swim. Yesterday we went to Adcock Gorge and I don't even think I went in the water. I just fished and it was good. That just heaps of little sooty grunters that love whatever soft plastic you put on that thing. I love it. Anyway, stay tuned with my Paul's Ice coffee. Yeah. Drifting, he was like the sprint cars. a walk. Where we go? Windjana. What is it called? Windjana what?
Windjana Gorge.
Windjana Gorge. Pretty cool. Gorge that you do not swim in for the reason that there's freshwater crocodiles everywhere. It is covered in rockodilios. And now we're currently en route to Tunnel Creek for a swim. But if you haven't heard of Tunnel Creek, it's a little creek cave thing where you literally swim through a cave with freshwater crocodiles everywhere and bats, and there's no lighting in the tunnels either, so you got to literally take torches and stuff. So we're looking forward to that. It's been a pretty hyped up thing to do. It's pretty warm. It's not sunny at the moment, it's just humidity's up. But yeah, stay tuned and come on an adventure. You know what's funny? There's a toilet back there, but I'm still going to wee in the creek.
It's just me, I'm sorry.
I know it's a chain, but it's still got pressure on my leg. I was like, whoa.
It's so cold.
Swimming in a crocodile.
That wasn't real.
Welcome back, fam bam, guys and girls. We did it. 2 weeks on the Gib River Road, and the hype lived up to it. You know, this trip was kind of built around the Gib River, and we were so excited from when we left home up until the day we got on the Gib, and we were wrapped. You know, we come across a lot of people that we met up with, and you know, some older people that were like, "Oh, don't do the Gib. You know, it's horrible. The conditions are bad." And then other people were like, "Nah, do it. You know, you live once," which is exactly right. But yeah, look, the road conditions aren't the best, but I think we had a good time because there was a lot that would, you know, just be graded. But at the same time, it's all about tyre pressures, and you know, and we do have a really good suspension in the big patrol, I won't lie. But anyway, enough about that. Awesome experience. I loved every bit of it. You know, I hadn't really looked into it much as Ayla had. I just thought we were going to do a big fishing adventure. The first night on the Gib, we stayed
El Questro Station for 2 nights.
Correct, but we did Emma Gorge on the way in because obviously Emma Gorge is before El Questro, so we didn't want to backtrack, so we did that. We stayed at El Questro. Awesome, both those gorges were sweet. We met up with some younger couple, Lockie and Vicky. They're currently travelling around Australia in a van, and that was literally our first night on the Gib, wasn't it? We met up with them, and then they had actually met some other people back down at Alice Springs further down, and we ended up all going over to the pub. They had a beer and I had a Coke Zero, but we all ended up catching up, and we're all doing the Gib, you know, we're all heading the same way. Let's all tag along, and literally it was awesome. They were absolute legends. They're all just chilled, really nice couple, really nice vibe. You know, everyone had their own intentions of where they wanted to go. There was places that Zayla and I hadn't heard, and they're like, "Oh, you know, this place is supposed to be nice." So we're like, "Oh, we'll go try it out," and look, it was awesome. You know, first stop was El Questro. Then we went and stopped in at Pentecost River. Stayed a night there, which is probably 45 kilometres up the road, 50 kilometres.
Yeah, a nice free camp along the river.
Awesome little free camp right on the river. There was crocs everywhere. We seen one during the day, and plenty of eyes at night time. Yeah. Pentecost River, stayed there 3 nights. So Pentecost River is basically the start of the Gib River where it becomes dirt. So you finish at the Pentecost, you let all your pressures down. The next morning we were heading to the Happy Valley, was it called? Home Valley. I'm really bad with all this type of stuff. Home Valley, we dropped in there. We were going to get a steak because we'd heard from some tourists that worked there that the steaks were really good. Anyway, they weren't open for like 4 hours and we went by. So our next stop was Ellenbrae Station. Zayla, thoughts of Ellenbrae?
Ellenbrae was definitely one of our highlights. It's known for its famous scones and mango frappes, so we had to stop in there to try the scones. They were amazing.
Awesome. So we pulled up and we're like, we have to get these scones. We'd heard wraps, and I love scones. Ellenbrae was awesome, cool little waterhole. There was a croc in there. Zayla and I had a bit of a blue because I told her to get in and swim with it so I could get some drone shot. Anyway,
a little bit scary.
Just a little scared. So we're from Ellenbrae. Where we go from there?
Ellenbrae, we headed to the Gib River free camp. Gib River free camp along the river there. That was really nice.
The Columbaroo turn off.
Yeah, just you sort of head 3 k's up the Columbaroo turn off. Just on the riverbed there. That was really nice. Free camp there. There was still a lot of water in the river for a swim, so that was really nice.
Very cool. But look, we won't talk about all our stops, all the gorges, because we'll be here for hours.
Yeah.
We spent 2 weeks on there. It's really awesome. So yeah, definitely my highlight would easily be El Questro Gorge. That was awesome. It was a really cool hike in. What return was it?
It was 7.4 return.
7.4. Stay grade 4.
Grade 4 hike.
But you're jumping up boulders, like it was so awesome. Really nice gorge at the end that you could swim in. It was really cool. And Emma Gorge. Then our last 2 nights on the Gib, we stayed down at
Leonard River.
That was awesome, really cool little spot. You know, the good thing about the Gib and the time that we did it, like a lot of people like don't do it, it's too late in the season, everything could be dried up. It was so quiet. Honestly, every day we were lucky to pass like 2 cars. You see videos on Instagram, there's people following people, cars everywhere, it's just chaos. But it was awesome. We were getting like discounts at all the caravan parks we were staying at because it was later in the season. But there was only one gorge that we come across that we couldn't swim in that wasn't flowing. Still had a waterfall above you could wash yourself, and that was Adcock Gorge. Which was awesome because we fished it and there was a fresh in there, so that was literally the only gorge. But there were so many people that were like, you know, it's too late in the season, but we loved it. Everywhere we went, we weren't fighting for a camp spot. The roads were quiet, you know, and getting up on corrugation, you want a bit of speed. You know, I knew mates that had done it and they were getting stuck on barramundi, and I had a couple of hits before and I lost one. He pulled my hook out and he bent it, so he was obviously a big donkey, but those hooks were weak anyway. Like, I'd get snagged and I'd pull on it and just bend it. But caught this absolute stonker, and it's night time, then you got to turn your light on like Zalo, and it was like a bank that we're fishing off, and yeah.
It was kind of rocky cliff as well, so trying to pull it in, and we weren't too sure about the crocodile situation in the creek either, so we had to be a little bit careful at night time. But
yeah, landed four, dropped two.
Fish, yeah.
A lot of other weird species, but the barra were the ones that we get really wrapped about. Barra fishing's awesome, we love it. They're just so different, they fight so hard. Yeah, that pretty well sums up the Gib River Road. We're absolutely stoked to have done it. It's one ticked off the list. Left the Gib today, and there's places that were Manning Gorge closed, what, a couple of days ago? Was it Manning Gorge?
Like 2 days ago.
But anyway, everywhere was closing in that time, and it was like we were perfectly on the river, on the Gib, sorry. It rained while being on the Gib. Like, not many people can say they've experienced rain on the Gib. Like, that was awesome. Like,
the weather was really good too. Like,
weather was perfect.
Everyone sort of told us that it was going to be stinking hot this time of year, but we had a few days where we had to put a jumper on at night time because it was a little bit cool, so we had really, really good weather this time on the Gib.
Gib River Road, you know, if you're thinking about doing it, definitely do it. We recommend it. I'd probably look at doing it sooner because they really are sealing a lot of the road. Like, I'm sure in 5 years' time the whole joint will be sealed the whole way, but it takes the fun and the challenge out of the road. And yeah, we had a really good time. We loved everything, loved all of it. And yeah, we met new friends. And yeah, you got anything to add to that?
No, it was
had enough of corrugated roads. I think
really
1,000 kilometres. 1,000 kilometres on the road was what I ticked over in total, like including all the off